And in my playbook tonight, these right-wing haters are flat out of control. The latest offense comes from a Glenn Beck righty, David Barton, a so-called professor at Beck University. On his radio show, Barton was talking about government regulation of things like fast food, cigarettes, and salt. And then he came up with this incredibly bigoted theory.
If I go to the Centers for Disease Control, and if I'm concerned about health, I find some interesting stats there, and this should tell me something about health. Homosexual, bisexual individuals are 7 times more likely to contemplate or commit suicide.
Wow.
Ooh, that doesn't sound very healthy. Homosexuals die decades earlier than heterosexuals. That doesn't sound healthy. You go through all this stuff, sounds to me like that's not very healthy. Why don't we regulate homosexuality?
I was about to say, now wait.
This is all part of a clear pattern of hate coming from the right wing. Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina is saying that gay people and sexually active single women shouldn't teach in public schools. Now this Beck disciple is spewing the same kind of garbage, and this is a guy who was the chair of the Texas Republican Party. He campaigned with Marco Rubio down in Florida. He worked with the Newster on Sharon Engel's campaign in Nevada. He even stumped for John McCain in 2008. The Republicans cannot pass this guy off as just some regular dude. He is a fringe righty. For more, let's bring in Reverend Barry Lynn, Executive Director of Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. Well, Reverend, we got a lot of material on the table to show exactly who the Republican Party represents. What do you make of this?
Absolutely. The only thing that David Barton said in that screed that contained all kinds of misinformation was gay and lesbian people, yes, they do have a higher suicide rate than straight people. And one of the reasons that that is sadly the case, and we've just seen recent examples of that, including with Tyler Clementi, who jumped off the George Washington Bridge after his roommate taped him in a sexual event with a male friend, is that these are the people who sow the seeds of this kind of bigotry. They say to be gay is sinful. They say to be gay is to be evil. And then they try to convince young people in particular that they can change, that you can go through this pseudo-scientific reparative therapy and change. And they're even against anti-bullying programs in public schools, including our last guest, Michael Medved, who sometimes is a sensible conservative, but he's against those programs. How can anybody be opposed to trying to keep bullies from smashing somebody or breaking some kid's arm on the playground, something that also happened last week?
We can draw the conclusion that they openly promote discrimination, and they make no bones about it.
Oh, they do more than promote discrimination, because what they really want, and what David Barton wants to do by regulating homosexuality, the only way you regulate this, I guess, is if you put people in a camp, in a single cell, in a camp, and then you just keep them there. And lest people say, well, that would never happen. Of course, sadly, it has happened in our history. And as you pointed out, Jim DeMint says one way that we start all this process of demonizing and then making it even more difficult to be a gay or lesbian person in America, make sure they can't teach. And if they can't teach, we of course know they can't be in the military. Senator DeMint's against that as well. So this is a very vile, very evil campaign.
This is who they are. Reverend Lynn, great to have you with us tonight. Thank you for your time.